This week on the Music Biz Weekly podcast, we start the discussion with something about the Live Nation Department of Justice proposed settlement where maybe artists can get their user fan data from Ticketmaster. Got big potential, but is there some downsides to it? We discuss.
Welcome to the Music Biz Weekly podcast, founded in 2011 and with over 500 weekly episodes, where Michael Brandvold discusses the very latest trends, tools, and tactics that you need to succeed in this new music business.
The Music Biz Weekly podcast has moved to a brand new YouTube channel. Please hit the subscribe button below so you don't miss future episodes. Visit www.musicbizweeklypodcast.com, subscribe on YouTube, follow and rate us on Spotify, subscribe and leave a review on iTunes. We appreciate your support.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Music Biz Weekly podcast. This week, I'm really honored to join by Blasco. Blasco, you've been on before, but for the life of me, I couldn't tell you how far back it was, but I know you've been here before.
Pre-pandemic, let's put it that way.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. You know, it's funny. People are, I get PR people and all sorts of people pitching me guests, and I'm just like, have they been? And they'll be like, has this person been on before? And I'm like, well, shit. I mean, and literally, I'm celebrating 15 years of this podcast this year. I'm like,
amazing.
15 years of doing pretty much a weekly podcast. I don't frickin' remember. I haven't. Maybe I can remember if somebody was on a month ago. But you want me to remember if somebody was on 12 years ago? No idea. No idea. I'd have to go look at my own podcast to find out if somebody was here.
I don't even remember what I did yesterday, let alone who was a guest on
that's
episode
exactly
10.
It.
Yeah.
My wife always gives me a hard time. So what'd you do today? I'm like, I don't know. I mean, I did a bunch of stuff, but it's done. If it's done, I don't need to remember it now. I'm on to new stuff. I don't freaking. It's a waste of time to remember what I had for lunch yesterday.
Yeah, that is right.
It's going to serve me no purpose.
No.
Until you get to the point where you're like, I feel like I've been eating the same thing for lunch for the last 3 days, and you're like, fuck yeah, I have been.
Yeah, that's right. Well, anyway, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Welcome. You and I did a check-in a couple weeks ago. Touching base, just catching up, and it was such a great conversation because our heads are in the same space when it comes to bands and the music industry and everything else that's out there. And when just before we hit the record button here, as typical of almost every episode, I'm like, oh, what do you want to talk about? I've got a few things, some cool topics, some timely topics, because I kind of like not going into stuff with a lot of notes that you then just get sucked into following what you wrote, and I want to just let the conversation take it. And I think one good topic is you posted about this on your LinkedIn profile, and listen, first of all, everybody go follow Blasco on LinkedIn. It's a lot of great just personal commentary of what's going on in the music business and observations and stuff like that. And today you made a post about the Live Nation DOJ proposed settlement that's going to happen between the two of them. And why that hit me, because I had saw this same thing somebody else had posted about a week ago. And basically, it's one little clause, and I don't have it right in front of me, so I'll paraphrase it. But it's one little clause. It's probably buried deep in a whole bunch of legalese that says artists can basically request Live Nation to turn over their ticket buying data for their fans. And I read that and I was like, wow, that's big. I mean, you can attest to this as well as I can. You work with major artists and you're like, God, if we could only get are Ticketmaster customers, the emails of the people who purchase tickets. What a targeted audience that would be. Good luck. You're never getting that data. That Ticketmaster, Live Nation, they all rightfully know that is absolute gold right there. You could sell them not just tickets, but music and merchandise, and you could do so much more when you have that data. And it's one of those things as a marketing person, when I've worked with KISS and all these other bands over the years, I'm like, man, this artist doesn't have an email list. I know where there's an email list. If we could only, does an artist have enough muscle, clout to force Ticketmaster to open that up? And I don't know about you, but I've never found an artist big enough to make that happen.
No, I mean, Madonna or something, maybe.
They might get access to use it one time and have Ticketmaster send out something on your behalf.
Yeah.
To turn it over to you is a big deal.
Someone somewhere is friends with Rapinoe for sure, and then that may crack the door open to some interesting data. But look, I think that I posted that on LinkedIn today, which, by the way, if anyone does want to follow me, yes, it is a very pointed, contrarian take at the music business. So I appreciate all followers and commenters, etc. But anyway, case in point is that I manage bands at a management company called 10th Street, and the president, Chris, forwarded this article around company-wide, and that's whenever I saw it. And Michael, look, I mean, I always kind of take things like that with a grain of sand, if you will,
a heavy grain.
Yeah, like to where, like, the associated message with it was, this is a game changer if it happens. And yes, of course it would be. I just feel like chances are minimal that level of game changing happens at all, or happens at any time soon. It was a little unclear if it's a retroactive thing or if it kind of starts fresh. And if it does, then that'll be wrapped up in a bunch of, red tape and opt-ins and, necessary forms to be filled out to capture that data and what you intend to do with it and whatnot. It's not going to be just like a snap of the fingers, turn it on, and here's your.
It's not like Ticketmaster's going to have a back end admin web page where you can just walk in and put in a request to send me all the ticket buying data you've ever accumulated on Motley Crüe.
No,
it's not going to happen.
They're not about to distribute what's it called, CSV files to a million artists overnight. Like, this shit's not happening.
No, not at all. Not at all.
But is it fun to fantasize about the idea of being able to have your ticket buying audience data? Yes, it would be glorious to have that and the things that you could do with it. And I believe maybe partially why that information is gate kept, just like maybe Spotify gatekeeps that same type of information, is because maybe we're the types of people that would abuse that data.
That's the big thing. I mean, we've always talked about that in this podcast, that there's always people that will then abuse the system, game the system, take advantage of it. That's why we can't have nice things in life, because somebody comes along and screws it up for the rest of us. But you're right. It was one of those things where I was just like, oh, this would be so nice. But once I started thinking about it, I was like, okay, what's the reality of this? And the first reality that slapped me in the face was, because I've done e-commerce for longer than I've even been in the music industry. So I understand customer data, opt-in, email forms, all that other stuff. And legally speaking, you can't just take somebody's email address from a transaction, dump it all into a CSV file and give it to somebody else. Absolutely not legal to do.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I will always advise people. That's not legal to do. But you can get around that by putting the proper opt-ins into the shopping cart, the checkout process. And we've all seen those. A little checkbox. Now, I think in this day and age, it's got to be by default unchecked. I remember a time when it could by default be checked, and you'd have to uncheck it to not allow this to happen. But an opt-in box that says, yes, I'm fine with you sharing my data, and we see this with other partners. And in the case of Ticketmaster, that partner is an artist. So yes, you have permission to do that. Once that's been checked, that data is free. That data is free to be shared. But you will also see many companies that have a clause that says, we flat out will never share or sell your data. They really go after privacy. So that's where I immediately okay, that's kind of a huge red light to this whole process. And I don't know the reality, but what has Ticketmaster had for opt-ins? I don't know. I don't know. But clearly there would have to be an opt-in that says you can share my data, you can give my data away. If that hasn't been in place, to kind of what you were alluding to, does that mean all past data doesn't apply and this is only moving forward? Still not a bad thing at all. No. But processes have to happen and be put into place to allow this to happen. Again, you're just not going to be calling up a Ticketmaster rep tomorrow and saying, so how do I get my data?
No.
The odds are the Ticketmaster rep's like, what are you even talking about? I don't know anything about this.
No chance. It does kind of point, though, to a bigger picture of artists and their own audience, right? And we could beat this over the head, and everybody has heard it and everybody knows it. You got to really get people to sign up to your mailing list. You can't continue to rent your audience only, right? There are platforms that you have to be on, right? There is situations like Live Nation and Ticketmaster. They're relatively impossible to work around, and it's just kind of part of the system. And if you're ingrained in the system, then a lot of times it just is what it is. Now, however, there is an opportunity to build up your own audience and own that relationship there. And once again, you can beat people over the head with it. And do they get a MailChimp or a Klaviyo or a Lalo and get a CRM person involved, or take on learning that task themselves or whatever? A lot of these independent artists are like, well, that sounds like work. right? That sounds like work. I kind of just would rather skip the line or have someone else be responsible for that stuff. But this is kind of a really good example that paints the bigger picture of artists without own audiences are, seemingly starting to dig themselves in deep holes. And, and I think that's just kind of the bigger picture here.
Yeah, you're exactly right. I mean, as I alluded to earlier, I've worked, just like you, we've worked with so many clients, and I won't name names, but there's some clients where people would be surprised to know this major artist never had an email list of fans.
Yeah.
You're like, you've been around for decades and you don't have an email list. You've never gathered that data. And, you see something like this little story about Live Nation. You're like, oh, well, that's a magic bullet. I can quickly get right into it. Well, no, that's just not going to work that way. You've got to be building this all the time forever, no matter how big you are. This is one of the reasons why I love Bands in Town so much is you can get a free email list started there. You don't
Mm-hmm.
have to get into having a CRM dedicated person. You don't have to pay a monthly fee to some other platform. Just gather this stuff. Just think about that right now. Just be gathering it. Maybe you don't know what you're going to do with it. I don't care. Gather it. Because to your point, you don't want to be renting your fans from another platform. We've all been on, name the platform, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter/X. When it goes down, might go down for a couple hours, might go down for a day, or Amazon AWS goes down, and God, the ripple effect of that could bring down much of the internet. When that happens, if you've always been renting your customers basically on other platforms, you've lost all contact.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I'm not saying that, an email platform could go down or the platform, the email service might be using AWS. I mean, yes, there's a lot of interconnectivity between everything. But if you've got an email list or a direct way to contact your fans, SMS, whatever it might be, you could ride out downtime on some of these major platforms. And you haven't experienced pure panic until those platforms go down on the same day you're supposed to announce a new album or announce a new tour. And now you're like, what the hell do we do?
Yep.
So in my opinion, like email lists especially, that's a major contingency plan. That's a major backup that you've got in your pocket that, okay, I can't make my posts as planned on Facebook and Instagram, but I could sure I could whip together an email really quick and get it out right away and
Yeah.
revise my rollout strategy to accommodate for that. Otherwise, if you totally have relied on all these social networks, and I honestly saw, I don't know, was it about a year ago when Facebook went down for like a good 24 hours? It wasn't in the music space. I'm in some of these Facebook marketing groups and stuff like that. And I saw somebody posted, he's like, my business entirely relied on Facebook. And when it went down for 24 hours, it basically killed my business. And I don't know what to do. And part of me is like, I feel sorry. But part of me is like, how could you build your entire business on a platform that can do that without any concern to you?
Yeah. Also, too, that the bigger reality here, facing people that listen to this show is that, look, I'm old enough to remember Instagram pre-algorithm.
Yeah.
Like I remember whenever the feed was timely and incremental, and people could build businesses on Instagram, and bands could reach their fan base on Instagram. And then here comes the almighty algorithm, sort of platform wide. And now they reduce your ability to reach the fan base that you have grown on their platform. And then they'll charge you to reach them. Right. So now it's one thing to acknowledge the fact that there is an algorithm that doesn't allow you, that allows you a throttled access to your fans, but then they're going to gatekeep it and charge you to reach a bigger portion of your fans. So if you think about the basic level of, I'm an independent artist, I need to put my song on DSPs, and I need to put my music video on YouTube, right? Just basic level stuff. I need my song to be heard, and I need my song to be seen, and I need to promote it on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok.
I need to talk to my fans who are already following me.
I need to do all of that. And now that is going to cost you. And that is not a budget that an independent artist has necessarily thought about setting aside and allocating for themselves. But you know, on a relatively moderately sustainable artist nowadays, the label has to spend 5 figures of advertising money to just be able for it to be seen on these primary platforms. And I'm not trying to be a bum out or anything, but it's just the reality.
And it's not to be seen by potential new fans. It's just to be seen by the fans who already clicked the follow button, the subscribe button, whatever that button is on the platform that says, I like you and I want to hear from you.
Yes. And so, like I said, I'm not trying to be a bum out. It's just the state of where we're at and the importance of segmenting owned audience and really trying to drive your primary fans that engage with you, that follow you, that will buy your t-shirt, that will stream your music, really trying and getting those people into an email platform that you have ownership of, that you can directly contact them with, and that you send them updates. And my best kind of offering of strategy here is that whenever you have the ability to be able to do that, and you can communicate with them directly, because it's like, think about the types of people that you give your email address or phone number to, right? This is basically giving them keys to your front door of your house.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, so there needs to be some sensitivity to that person, is that they're an active fan if they're giving you sort of a front key to their house.
If you looked at that pyramid of a fan status, somebody at the bottom is just clicked the like button. They've not purchased anything. They've not given you an email address. It's closer to the top of that pyramid when a fan says, yeah, I'm giving you my cell phone to text me, or I'm giving you an email address to contact me. That's a deeper commitment that fan has towards you.
Yeah, that's right.
And so, to your point, you've got to respect that.
Right. And so on that subject, my mantra for independent artists to remember and think about whenever they're communicating or whenever they're posting is more interaction and less transaction. It's so easy for artists to get in this transactional mode of listen to my song, buy my record, buy my ticket, come to my show. Transaction. That shit gets boring, right? And people like tune out. So think of it more in terms of interaction, of like, what can you do that is engaging, right? If you make good content and you're not just trying to sell someone something all the time, you're really just trying to find a way to communicate with them and get them to engage with what you are creating, right? Like in essence, it's like the reality is, it's like, look, if you're on these platforms, you have to kind of start thinking about yourself as a creator. And it's not maybe what a lot of people signed up for, but these platforms have how people interact and engage with content on these platforms is really creator based. So however it is that you can sort of reframe your presentation as an artist and think of it less as I'm a musician, therefore you should pay attention, and more like I'm a creator, I've got something to offer, and here's me creating, and maybe we can communicate and create together, and maybe we can collaborate on stuff or whatever it is. But just case in point, just to reiterate, more interaction, more interactive content, and less transactional content.
Yeah. You know, going back to what I said, when somebody gives you an email address, they're higher up the chain as a diehard fan.
Mm-hmm.
And as fans move up that pyramid towards the very top, they know a lot about you as a musician, as a band. They know you've got a tour. They know you've got a single. They know all of that stuff. That's basic knowledge for diehard fans. So when you're doing a direct connection to them through an email or a text message or whatever it might be, a direct message, it shouldn't be transactional because they already know. They've probably already bought, they've probably already streamed, they've probably already watched the video. So you're wasting that connection on a more diehard fan with just transactional purchases. They don't need to be beaten over the head. And I'm telling you that as a marketing person, and I'm going to tell you that as a fan of hundreds and hundreds of bands that I follow. Do not beat me over the head with purchase, 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 purchase. I know you've got something to purchase. And I've either already purchased it or I'm getting to a point in the near future where I will purchase it. You don't need to beat me up about buy. Too much of that will actually turn me off, and I could easily hit that unsubscribe button.
That's right.
And now you've lost my email address and you've lost your ability to communicate to me. Why? Because you abused that relationship to make it all about purchase. And that's not what it's about. I was talking to a musician yesterday, and I'm like, at the end of the day, it's about what is your story? What's your story? And I'm going to tell you right now, your story is not your music. That doesn't matter. We all assume you've got the best music possible that you could create. So then throw the music off to the side. What is it about you as a person that the fans can connect to and engage? And that's something personal. That's your hobbies, your likes, your dislikes, whatever it might be, because that's something a fan can go, I like the same hobby he likes. Oh, that's pretty cool. My favorite musician does the same thing I do. Because when it comes to the music, the fans are always going to sort of be disconnected from that. They enjoy your music. They love your music. But for the most part, they're not going to ever be able to create music like you do.
Yeah.
So, you can talk about the gear you use, and that's always cool to learn how it's made. But a real deep connection with a fan will come when there's something at the same level as the fan that you do as the artist and they do as the fan that you have in common. You both like classic cars. You both like to barbecue. You both, I don't care what it, you go fishing, you surf, whatever it is, you paint. When a fan figures out that their favorite artist has the same like as they do, wow, you have yet to experience a true fan connection until you can see that happen.
That's right. Yeah, I say your music is your delivery mechanism of your message. So
it's the doorway.
So understanding what exactly your message is of ultimate importance, and also too, it's that connective tissue, right? Like to where like that message is going to connect. And if you find the right people for that message to connect with, this is how we build a fan base. And, I'll probably say this 100 times across this podcast, but your fan base is the currency of the industry, meaning that the more fans that you have, the more relevancy you have, the better your music sounds, right? The more leverage you have when it comes to negotiations.
Yeah, the better business deals you can cut.
That's right. And it was like I was at South by Southwest over the weekend, and I was on a like a listening panel, and there was a bunch of artists that were taking turns coming up, and there was like a panel of like 4 of us, and they were playing their music, and there was some really great stuff and some really average stuff, as those events typically are. But this guy, he was very nice. He played a song. It was fine. And I asked him. I go, hey, what are your metrics? Like, I hate to be like the snooty
The numbers
industry.
guy.
I hate to be the snooty industry guy, but if you want to play with the big boys, the answer is really a lot more about metrics. Like, we're in the metric business and not really in the music business. And he's like, well, we got 2,000 Instagram followers and like 10,000 monthlies. And I go, well, those are rookie numbers, man. You got to pump those numbers up, And I was like, and I go, man, and I go, for everybody listening, this is the thing. If you just told me that you had 1 million monthly listeners on Spotify, this music would sound completely different than the guy that has 10,000 monthly listeners on Spotify. And it's sad and tragic, but it's just the way things are. So if that's the way things are, and that the gateway to there is how to build fans and how to get fans, and less about, man, I wrote this song and I think it could be on the radio. I think it could be a hit. Like,
Yep.
it's like, I think it would be like this one guy was really funny. He's like, I hear this song in a car commercial, and then you just go like, oh, right? Like, you're that guy. But then he goes, but not a great car company, like more like a Kia. And I just thought that was a really great presentation of like, he came in totally hot. And then he kind of he dumbed it down like in a funny way. And you're like, oh, and then you listen to the song under that kind of premise. And it was actually, you could kind of hear it in a Kia commercial, I mean, the opportunities to sync a song in car commercials, regardless of how good or bad it is so difficult beyond means, But anyway, that was my South by Southwest highlight.
Yeah, I've had that same discussion with artists, and I frame it this way. I'm like, listen, again, it's not about the music, because the industry assumes everybody's recorded the best possible music they could. So if I have 2 potential artists in front of me that I'm interested in either booking a show or signing to a deal or doing something, but 2 artists that the music is equally great, that I love both of them, okay, that's fine. Now I take the music off the table, because that's a wash. What's now the metrics? Well, this artist has 100,000 followers on Instagram, and this one has 1,000. Okay. I see where there's an audience. You look at YouTube, you look at Spotify, you look at all of them. And I'll say real quick, people like us, we can recognize when you've got fake followers too. Okay.
That's true.
So don't think just buying the number is going to solve the problem for you, because we can instantly look at stuff and go, yeah, there's a pretty good chance that 100,000 is all fake. Why? Well, because you've only made 4 posts and you've got 1 like across all 4 posts. So how can you have 100,000 followers?
Sure.
But we look at it that way. And then, especially when you're dealing with booking agents or potential labels, those businesses aren't in the business of finding your audience and building your audience for you. This is not the 70s, the 80s, where record labels would take 3 albums and develop an artist and build your audience and your following. You come in ready to go. It's a horse race. The starting gun goes off and you're off to the races. So, an agent is going to sit here and go, well, I'm going to book the band that has a potentially much larger audience to talk to market my show. Label, same thing. I'm going to sign the artist that has obviously great music, but has a built-in audience ready to go, so that when we say, artist, here's the press release, can you please share this to your socials? We know it's not going into a vacuum. We know it's going to be heard. And, you can sit down and crunch numbers and go, okay, maybe 1% of your audience is going to act on it immediately. And that gives you, the business, an opportunity to project potential returns, revenues, responses, all that other stuff. If you're an artist that has no metrics, and we've all seen it. You're just like, yeah, but who are you talking to?
That's right.
It's not Spotify's job to find your audience. It's not YouTube's job to find your audience. It's not even your record label's job to find your audience.
No. And they can't anyway. I mean, it's up to the artist to build an audience. Like, I'll give you a specific metric. I was at a music expo thing, and there was a very big, popular artist manager who was on the stage, and he was talking about a new artist that he had just picked up, and the metrics of that was 150,000 monthly listeners on Spotify and 150,000 followers on Instagram. Now, those are arbitrary, but the point of it is for a manager of a massive management company to take a level of interest in your band, that band had built up that audience to that level. That was the threshold that says, we will consider you as a client. And
yes,
and the reason why, the mechanics of why that is because, like we all know, like, we're not in the business of building a fan base, right? Because it's just not. Like, maybe someone is, but we're not in that business of building bands' fan bases. But when a band can build their own fan base, the mechanic of a manager, an agent, an attorney, someone of that, or a record label coming in, they're like, we just need to do what we do. We pour our gasoline on the fire that's already building. We can accelerate.
We can accelerate it. We can give you greater exposure. You've primed the pump by giving us an audience to talk to. Now we're going to put the right material into that audience to really hopefully ignite it and take it further.
Right.
It's very, it's all about momentum. If you have zero metrics, it's really hard to get started and get momentum. But once you've got that momentum, it becomes easier and easier to keep growing it. And this is one thing I've always told clients, and I don't care how big you are of a client, you should always be going for more YouTube subscribers, more bands in town followers, because there's always more fans out there that are not following you, and they will if you tell them to. That's the thing. So many artists think, okay, I'll tell people to follow me. I'll make one post, and that's it. One post. It's like, no, you got to make one post for each network once a month forever.
Yeah.
Keep doing it. Keep doing it.
That's right. Yeah, and not to sound like, the old crotchety dude that just paints a very bleak picture of you have no future. But, the advantage of today is, and granted, look, an artist, a musician, I didn't sign up to be a creator. I didn't sign up to do TikTok dances. I didn't sign up to be a marketer. I didn't sign up to be all those things that you're telling me that I have to be. I get it, right? I totally empathize with that position. The good news is that what you have the ability to do now is you can go on YouTube and go, teach me how to advertise to a segment of music buyers, right? Like, teach me how to do this. Teach me how to market my band. Teach me how to get followers. How do I understand CRM? How do I like, all the answers are at your fingertips.
Are there? Yes.
You can literally reach the customer that you want to reach, right? The potential fan. You have the ability to do that. Me growing up, I didn't have that ability. Like, it was like, let's just, make some music, put out a record, buy some ads, go on tour, and hope for the best. And sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. As you've seen, why are some bands Metallica and why some bands aren't? It's like some just connect more than others, and some don't connect at all. So, like I said, to paint a clearer picture here at the end is that the good news is that you can learn anything that you don't know, and you can access the people who aren't quite your fans yet, but you have the ability to do that on the internet, right? So the ability to reach who you currently don't have is there. You just gotta kind of step outside of the comfort zone and spend a few weekends on YouTube.
You're gonna have to do a little work that isn't related to writing songs and playing live.
Yep. The easy parts.
Or you're gonna have to get somebody on your team to do that for you. Yep. So you're exactly right. I mean, this is the music business, and there's more letters in the word business than there are in the word music.
Yep.
It's the reality. You are not going to have a long career if you think all that matters is your music.
No. Nope, you are not.
I mean, we can argue whether that's right or wrong, but that doesn't matter, because the reality is once you do this, say you want to do this professionally, the word professional in itself means you're going to get paid to do this.
Yeah.
Now that's 100% of business. And the people you are working with, agents, venues, record labels, merch companies, you name it, they're in this as a business as well.
Yeah.
And they're not going to work with somebody just because they're cool if there's no business to be made.
No.
You don't stay in business long doing that.
No. And it's just because you learned an instrument does not entitle you to a career as a musician, right? There's a lot more to that, but once again, it's possible. It can be. Look, if I did it, anyone can do it, because I have no unfair advantage, right? Like, I'm barely even talented, and I have played in some of the biggest bands on the planet, and I'm very fortunate and gracious and appreciative that I've had that opportunity, and I do not take it for granted. But the reality is, like, I wasn't gifted these things, right? And my point is that if I was able to do it, believe me, anyone can do it.
I'll end with a favorite quote that Gene Simmons has said many times. It's not about how good you play on stage. It's about how good you look playing on stage.
I love that. That's amazing.
Which, to your point, you did that little listening session. I remember I did a showcase at some music convention years ago, and it was the typical panel of, there was a songwriter there judging, there was an A&R guy, there was a booking agent, there was me. And I'm sitting there going, wait a second. I've never been in a band in my life. I don't play an instrument. I've never written a song. I couldn't critique any of that from a performance standpoint. And of course, like, the A&R guy and the songwriters were critiquing that part of it. And I immediately was like, all right, I'm going to take it from the marketing angle. And I said, I remember and I don't even remember who this was or what the band was, but there was one guy that was a shredding guitar player. And when he started doing his solo on stage, he turned around and went straight up to his amp. And for the whole solo, he just played and connected to his amp, looking at his amp. And when it was done and it was my turn to give him some criticism, I'm like, you lost me. I'm an audience member and you didn't even look at me. You were more interested in playing to your Marshall than being on stage and making eye contact with me out on the stage.
Yeah.
As a fan, I'm telling you right now, you completely lost me at that. So you've got to take all of this stuff into consideration. But yeah, at the end of the day, the whole premise of this discussion, own your audience if at all possible. Of course, you're gonna have to be on platforms where you don't own them, but don't put all of your eggs in those baskets, because it will eventually come back to hurt you. It will burn you at some point in time, because all of a sudden you lost your ability to contact someone.
Yep, that's right.
Lasco, this was awesome. I love discussions like this. People want to reach out to you, LinkedIn. Do you have a website?
LinkedIn or Instagram, Blasco Official.
There you go.
Yeah.
Give them a follow. And before we wrap up, I want to just do a quick shout out. Thank you to Bruce and Jeremy and everybody over at Hypebot and Bands in Town. Thank you for all of your continued support. Everybody should be using Bands in Town. It's not just for tour dates, people. Get in there. It's free to use. Hypebot, great place for news. And not just news, but they do a lot of great articles and studies on marketing techniques and what you can do on your own. It's one of those great free resources you were talking about. So that's it, everybody. Music Biz Weekly Podcast. We'll see everybody next week.
Thank you.
Every month, thousands of musicians and industry professionals listen to the Music Biz Weekly Podcast. If you have a product or service and would like to reach this audience, get in touch with Michael to discuss sponsorship opportunities.
Voices for the Music Biz Weekly Podcast provided by LarryDavisVoice.com.